This quarter's report's another strong performance. We know next week we'll be meeting in the retreat, so this time of the year typically we won't go into a lot of detail because we'll be covering much of this material next week. But the investment portion of the report is another strong quarter. Our investment advisor, points out the portfolio is in full compliance with federal, state, and board policies. We also know that the economy has been strong and we've had robust job growth, so those are very positive things that are driving good outcomes for our portfolio. Certainly there's uncertainties in the future as we see every quarter, but so far there's a strong bullish mindset from our advisors. And then the portfolio itself, as you can see, it totals approximately $83 million at the end of the calendar year. We have it broken up into portfolios, a short-term and a long-term portfolio. You can see the sector allocations is a well-diverse portfolio across the investment options that we're allowed to, and we maintain a very strong credit quality to the portfolio. In terms of this month's report, I wanted to add a special report. We haven't covered this before, but I just want to give you a brief update on our banking activities. As you know, I think it was in August of last year, we had brought to the board the First Midwest Bank contract for approval. And after we had completely renegotiated the contract, so we've been very satisfied with the results. We also initiated some new CDB contract trust accounts that we did for the first time through Wintrust Bank. We know there was two projects approved this year. One was for the roof work, which is what we opened up our first account. And we're hoping when the South Lake project gets approved and we're depositing funds for that project, we're anticipating using the Wintrust Bank as well. We also approved some new features for the foundation in December. Maybe it was in January, where we provided them a more efficient deposit feature so they can more timely deposit the foundation gifts. So that's something that's new. And then finally, we had a special account and services review done by the bank. And I put that report in the board portfolio so you can see all the accounts that we have with the bank and all the various services that we procure. And one of the key questions when I meet with our bank relationship is, are there any services that they'd recommend that we aren't using so that we manage towards what's latest? And they mentioned three things in a recent review. They mentioned foreign exchange services. I've kind of featured the integrated payables solution. That's a new product a lot of banks are offering their clients. And then finally, they obviously were recommending a commercial card program, though we currently have that in place through another bank, though we do use their commercial card program for our foundation accounts. The blue box just kind of highlights at a glance the key activities for the quarter of ending in December. You'll see we were earning a decent interest rate from the bank on our accounts. You can see the fees that we earned and the various fees that we paid. And then just kind of in closing, just in terms of trustees' input on the current bank, we've been with First Midwest for a number of years. We've been bringing that contract back to the board recently every year for your review. Though at some point, if we want to stay with the bank, it might be helpful to enter into a little bit longer term relationship so we don't have to keep bringing it back. Or if the board desires, we take that service out to bid just to be competitive. We can certainly do that as well too. So I don't know if the board has any advice for us on that point, but we've been very satisfied with the relationship. We've been getting great service, but it's been a long-standing relationship, and Connie and I have worked really hard to kick the tires and make sure we're getting the best possible value from them. But our plan is to proceed going forward with First Midwest Bank unless unless we're directed otherwise from the board.
I mean, historically, early on, the college used to have a policy where it could only invest with banks that did business in Lake County. So it excluded a lot of Chicago banks, and the banks in Lake County knew that. And so, back when interest rates were 12, 14%, we were getting 11, 13%. They always shaved a little bit off because they knew we couldn't go anywhere else. So now that we have, opened up that policy, First Midwest has been a very good bank and has done great with us. So, if you wanted to go longer, I could see that, but I don't think we really need to go out and bid it.
Yeah, we're coming back to the board. It would be around the June timeframe when we scheduled to renew. So it'll be at that time that we bring back either a longer-term relationship or taking it back out to bid.
They're also good friends of the college and good friends of the foundation.
Yes.
They're very supportive of scholarships, and that's always good to see too.
Yes, they have been
Yeah.
foundation very much.
Thank you for your direction.
Thank you. Helpful advice. Oops. And then in terms of the final portion of the report, the quarterly financial results, I wanted to point out that the roll the revenues and expenses are trending as we expected. Well, I have a little feature this quarter. I just wanted to point out the 3-year trend in spending. The college has been doing a better job in the first 6 months this year, spending what we had planned to spend. And I think a big part of that's due to the college planning work we're doing with having more formal plans around our initiatives and more check-in points. I think that's helping us improve our first 6-month spending rate. So I was really encouraged to see that. Then as you can see from the budget to variance slide, revenues are on track with spending as well as expenses, so that's very strong. And then when we look at it by the various sources of revenue, this slide points out that the tuition and fees are much stronger than we had expected, so that's very encouraging. And while you don't notice it on the replacement tax line, the only being down $0.1 million compared to our plan is a much stronger position than we had been in prior years at this point in time. So there's two very strong revenue components that are emerging in this 6-month report, and we'll go into more detail next week. In terms of the spending side, we're about on track with what we'd expected to be per our plan, and this compares very favorable to the prior year as well. Anyway, just a quick recap of where we're at. A new item for this meeting, and if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.